Hello and welcome to another episode of What's for Dinner, and today I had something just a little different than what I normally put out. And before I get into the cooking, I would like to talk about how it is that I ended up making a recipe based off the cuisine of a somewhat obscure, at least in America, Central Asian country. Now, the last time that I made cabbage rolls, I really liked them. They turned out very well. Unfortunately, my wife did not. They're just not her thing. And I wanted to try to make cabbage rolls that I thought she would like. Originally, I was going to make a brand new recipe, just something off the top of my head, but I remembered while I was doing research for the previous video that I found that a lot of countries make cabbage rolls. They're pretty commonplace, but one country stood out over all the others, and that was Azerbaijan. That's because the ingredients in their food tend to be a little bit different than the ingredients of the countries I normally associated with cabbage rolls. So I did a little bit of research and I found out that cabbage rolls in Azerbaijan are made basically the same as they are anywhere else. But their food in general contains a lot of very interesting flavors, and flavors that I normally wouldn't associate with one another. Things like cumin and fennel, or coriander and dill. And I thought this just pairing of just strange and unrelated ingredients was interesting, so I decided to make a new recipe based off of the cuisine of Azerbaijan as a whole. So just as a bit of a preface, these are not Azerbaijan cabbage rolls. If you look up a cookbook for Azerbaijan food and find cabbage rolls, this is probably not the recipe you're going to find. But these are heavily influenced by the food of Azerbaijan. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the cooking. Before we get started, I wanted to talk about some of the ingredients I'll be using today. We have bay leaves, so this is saffron, this is both black pepper and cumin seeds. We have fennel seeds and coriander seeds, as well as some dry ingredients, some dry turmeric, dry dill, and dry mint. You can also see I have my cabbage leaves already separated, boiled, and ready to go. If you're curious how I did that, go ahead and visit my previous video on cabbage rolls, available at the link at the top of the screen. So we're going to go ahead and start with the filling. I'm using both lamb and beef for this filling. Azerbaijan food features lamb very heavily, which is great for me because I love lamb. But I didn't want the lamb to be too powerful, so I did cut and do 50-50. This is a fairly lean ground beef as well. I believe it's 85-15. Next, I'm going to add in some grains. Normally, you would use bulgur wheat. That's kind of the traditional grain for that area of the world. I couldn't find bulgur wheat, so this is an ancient grain blend. I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some of our dry ingredients. This is, again, cumin seeds and cracked black pepper. Next is going to be dry dill. This is already a little strange to me because those first two don't go with this. But again, I was kind of going by the seat of my pants here. Just a little bit of a confession. I didn't test this recipe before I shot the video. So a little bit of salt and pepper. And next I'm going to add in some saffron. Saffron features very heavily in Azerbaijan food as well. It's very expensive, but it has a very potent but subtle flavor. It's very floral. So here I'm grinding it between my palms just to help evenly disperse it throughout the entire mix. Next is a little bit of dry turmeric. Turmeric also features really heavily in Azerbaijani food. It kind of gets a bad rap for just being yellow and not having flavor, but it actually does have flavor, and quite a lot of it as well. Next I'm going to add in a little bit of onion to the mix. This is just one onion, the other two are going to be for the pot and the sauce. And I'm just going to mince this very fine. So here you can see I'm using kind of an arch of radial cuts, and then I'm dicing it very small. And just one more time so you can see that. Again, follow the knife, kind of angling it in towards the center, making very small, shallow cuts. Not shallow cuts, just small cuts, sorry. And then you'll just go across and dice. And I do want to point out, you can see here, my thumb is in a terrible position. I do that because it's definitely easier, but I just want to point out that if you're not super comfortable with a knife, you should probably avoid doing that. There's a very good chance you'll cut the tip of your thumb off. Next up, I'm going to add a little bit of garlic, and I was surprised to find out that garlic doesn't feature as heavily as I would have thought in the food of Azerbaijan, at least according to the research that I did. This is going to be minced just very, very fine. I don't want to bite into big clumps of garlic in this kind of recipe. So next up I'm going to add in a few eggs. The eggs act as a bit of a binder, helps everything set and get a nice firm texture, as well as the yolks adding some fat, which just helps increase the amount of moisture that the final dish will have so that the meat doesn't feel dry when you eat it. So next up, another ingredient that just, again, feels very strange for me to add is going to be cilantro. So just very finely chop some cilantro, add that in, and then we're going to go ahead and start mixing everything up. So I want to mix this up very thoroughly. I want to make sure all the flavors are evenly distributed throughout everything. And then I'm going to do something that it may seem a little strange, but it's something that I really highly recommend if you're ever making like a mixed meat dish like this, like a ground beef, whether it's hamburgers or a filling or a meatloaf. Taste it. Take a small amount and cook it like a little hamburger patty and taste it, because you don't know what you're serving if you don't do this. And while that cooks, I'm going to go ahead and start prepping the rest of my ingredients. These are going to be the veggies that I'm going to include in the pot with the cabbage rolls. I don't know how traditional these are. I have a feeling that carrots and celery is probably not too traditional for Azerbaijan food, but it's what I had on hand. And you can see I'm cutting everything just into very large pieces. This both makes the dish easy to prep, but it also ensures that these vegetables won't get lost and just kind of cook away into nothing in the pot. So I'm going to pull off my little taste test here, and I have to be honest, I was blown away. I didn't expect to like this as much as I did. I didn't think it was going to be bad, but I wasn't really sure about this odd combination of ingredients. And I have to tell you, this is maybe one of my favorite foods I've ever had so far, like as far as the food of a country goes. But that said, it did need a little bit of doctoring up, so I'm going to add in a little bit more salt and pepper for seasoning. I'm going to add a little bit more dill, and then I'm actually going to add in some of the dry mint, because when I tasted it, I understood this idea of these earthy, heavy spices combined with kind of bright, fresh herbs. I was going to add the mint originally to just the sauce, but I really felt that it was going to be something that would be very good if added to the filling. So once again, I'm going to pull off a little taste test, fry it up in a pan, and then continue work on the rest of the dish. So while our taster is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start getting the sauce ready. I'm just using this is just regular tomato sauce. I'm going to add a little salt and pepper for seasoning. And I wanted the sauce to be much more floral and very bright in taste. So I'm adding some saffron. I'm adding in, this is the dry mint that I had added to the meat, but I'm adding more of it to the sauce, as well as a whole cinnamon stick and bay leaves. So just stir this all together, and I actually gave it a quick taste test, and it didn't quite have the brightness that I wanted. It was still a little on the savory side and kind of on the deep side. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the best way I can describe it. So after tasting it, I knew it needed a little bit more acid, so I decided to hit it with some white wine vinegar. So we went back and tried our second taster, and the addition of the mint and a little more seasoning made just, again, I'm shocked at the way that all these flavors work together. I didn't expect to like it. I didn't expect just the addition of mint to have such an impact. So with our filling done, our sauce ready, we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to actually making these cabbage rolls. So you just want to take a decent amount of meat. This is a lot because this first leaf is very big. Just form it into a rough cylinder, and make sure you have enough. You want to kind of balance the meat to leaf ratio. And then you'll fold the sides and then just roll. It's that simple. I'll do it a few more times so you can see it. Once again, fold the left, fold the right, and then begin to roll. And as you roll, you do want to apply a very small amount of pressure. Not too much, you'll rip the leaves. The leaves get pretty tender when they get cooked. But enough that you just squeeze out any air and just tighten them up into nice, clean little packages. So with everything ready to go, we'll go ahead and get our pot set up. Add a little bit of sauce to the bottom. This will prevent any kind of burning. And then add in the first layer of cabbage rolls. Now, you don't want to crowd it. You don't want to pack them in there. But you want to make sure it is fairly full just so that everything kind of stays in place. But you want enough room so that the sauce and moisture can kind of percolate and move around. So next I'm adding in all the vegetables. And again, the onion halves seem kind of a lot, but you'll see when everything's done, they actually cook down to almost nothing. If they were cooked any smaller, they would just vanish. And with all the veggies in the pot, we'll go ahead and get the final layer of cabbage rolls and then just dump in the rest of the sauce. Now we're going to cook this in our pressure cooker for 45 minutes. And here is now 2 minutes of me fighting with a pressure cooker I should know how to use, squeezed into 20 seconds. We did eventually get there, and after 45 minutes we were presented with a wonderful pot of well-cooked cabbage rolls. And the smell that this put into my house it's undescribable, really. You could smell all the unique different flavors, but it just melded together in such a way. It really reflected how I felt about how it tasted when I tried the filling for the second time. It almost doesn't make sense, but it's just wonderful and delicious, and I couldn't have been happier. So with all that said, I will leave you with the remainder of the incredibly epic Azerbaijan national anthem. As always, I appreciate all your views, all your time. Please like, favorite, comment, share, and subscribe for more content like this every single week. Thank you for watching.